And let's begin with unit tests. With unit tests, we test individual code units such as method, interface, etc. It is not used for testing a whole flow or a communication between components. In addition, unit tests focus on in-process only testing, so we are not going to check, for example, if our code can communicate with the database. This is not the scope of unit tests. In order for the unit tests to be effective, they are usually automated. In a well-tested system, there are a lot of unit tests. In fact, there should be more unit tests than methods, usually in a ratio of 4:1 or something similar. Now, to run and validate all these tests manually is a huge task for a human, and therefore it's a very good idea to use automated framework for that. Almost all development platforms have automated unit testing framework, such as NUnit for .NET or JUnit for Java. One of the important aspects of unit tests is that they are developed by the developers. The reason is simple. The developers have the most intimate knowledge about the code they write, and they know what are the functions or other code units that should be tested. Other teams, such as the QA team, might know very well the functional requirements from the code, but they have no idea what are the code units, and therefore cannot develop unit tests for them. So let's see a quick example of unit tests. Say we have the orders service. Now, as expected from such a service, it has methods for order handling. Among them, add order for adding a new order, cancel order for canceling an existing order, get order details for retrieving the full details of a specific order, and get order for user, which returns a list of orders for a given user. This is useful when users log into the system and enter their account details, and within these details we want to display the list of orders they made. Now, as we said before, unit tests test code units, and the typical code unit we want to test is a method. So in this case, we have at least 4 unit tests. Each one tests a specific method. Now, this is not the optimal case, and in reality we will have much more than 4 unit tests. But for the sake of the example, we will assume there are 4 tests, 1 for each method. So this is the role of the unit test, and as you can probably assume, they are extremely important for the quality of the system. Now, what do we do with unit tests in a microservices system? Is there any difference here? Well, it turns out the answer is no. Unit tests behave the same in microservices and monolith, and that makes sense. Since unit tests test only in-process code, they are not affected by the distributed nature of microservices, and they are completely oblivious to whatever happens outside the microservices boundary. And in the service itself, the code is the same code as in monolith system. Now, since it's the same, we can and should use the same framework and methodologies. There is no reason to look for specialized unit testing framework for a new microservices system. If it works with the monolith, it will work just fine with microservices. Okay, so that was unit tests, and now let's move on to the next test type.